happened at Washington football team. It got ugly fast.
Right.
And that was with Andy Dalton starting at quarterback. Right. Obviously, he got hurt in, the third quarter,
yes.
got concussed and knocked out of that game. What if we lose every game? Is it possible that the Jets, with Joe Flacco at quarterback, manage to stumble home and win a couple of games? It's possible. So now we're back to Trevor Lawrence. Okay? So Jerry, as we know, sometimes he leans more to marketing than to winning.
Right.
Would he be intrigued by the 6'6" quarterback with the long, sort of blondish brown hair? Would he be intrigued by that as America's team's quarterback? Maybe, although Dak has become very popular.
He has.
Very popular. Jerry has helped turn Dak into a sympathetic figure by hardballing him in the contract negotiation.
And then he got hurt. Man, Skip, that locker room.
Sympathetic figure. I got it. I got it. And in the biggest picture, Dak is so, obviously he's a sympathetic figure because of the loss of his brother, the suicide of his brother, but he's very likable. I'm not saying he's charismatic, but he's just so likable. He's inoffensive, and he cuts across all lines. I think all communities seem to really like him because he's a good guy.
Yes.
Solid. He's not controversial. He says all the right things. So he's got a lot of star power that way, and he's got a whole lot of national TV commercials. So I'm not sure that Trevor Lawrence would be more marketable than Dak Prescott has become up from the 4th round, right?
What? You see that kid?
Well, tell me about it.
He'd be all in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay.
Was Troy Aikman marketable? Was Tony Romo marketable? Can you imagine that kid, 6'6", with those locks in Dallas? Forget Dallas, Texas, any part of Texas. That sells. Jerry knows it sells.
He does seem to be a little more of a liberal thinker than most.
Yes.
And he has been very much pro-Black Lives Matter.
Jerry knows it sells.
He does seem to be a little more of a liberal thinker than most.
Yes.
And he has been very much pro-Black Lives Matter, right? And has been out front on that cause. But still, just on image alone, yes. Just on pure image, yes.
Yes.
Jerry's going to be like, ooh, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Cha-ching,
cha-ching, cha-ching, 6 feet, 6 inches tall. Okay, so then it would boil down to long-term, who's going to win more playoff games?
Right.
Would it be Trevor Lawrence or Dak Prescott? Boy, that's a hard call right now. I don't, I've told you all year, I'm not sold completely on Trevor Lawrence, which brings us to Justin Fields. I'm starting to get sold on him because all he does is complete every pass he throws. Albeit with a loaded football team, great protection.
And if you think about it, Skip, I believe this kid is going to come out with a higher grade than Joe Burrow, who was regarded as University's #1 pick. He's going to come out with a higher grade than Justin Herbert. And we see how well he's playing. Tua got injured, but he's going to have a higher grade than probably higher than Jared Goff and Carson Wentz when they came out.
Okay, I do agree. So now back to your point. Dak Prescott, unfortunately, suffered a career-threatening injury. It's so bad that whatever mobility Dak has had, which is reasonable, he has reasonable mobility, will it be inhibited? Will it be handicapped going forward? Maybe, don't know, but hope he could bounce back full force.
Probably the second year he'll be closer to 100% for what he was as opposed to this upcoming 2021.
That will affect Jerry and Stephen Jones thinking short term, like, do we know what we have? Well, some of it's just going to be guesswork. The doctor's going to say he's way ahead of schedule because they're all ahead of schedule, right? So then we look at defensively. Obviously, Dallas needs lots of help on defense. I look at Todd McShay on ESPN.com, a friend of mine, does a great job. So I'm looking at his latest mock draft, his draft ranking. And it's not a mock draft, it's just his ranking. But he's got Micah Parsons out of Penn State as the highest defender, and he's an edge rusher, linebacker, and he wears number 11. And all I know is last year, every time I turned on my TV, I saw number 11. He popped for me. But is he Lawrence Taylor? Probably not.
You can't compare to that.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. But is he even Chase Young? I doubt it.
Let me ask you a question. Could he be Myles Garrett?
it's different because he's smaller and faster.
Right.
He's going to be more Von Miller-esque.
Right.
Could he be Von Miller? That would be the one.
Maybe because he's wearing that number, maybe he's compared to what I call it works here, LeVar Arrington. LeVar Arrington wore number 11. It was a linebacker that was all
over the field. Okay, I got it. Patrick Surtain at Alabama, he's the second. Obviously, his father was very good, made 3 Pro Bowls for the Dolphins, if you remember that.
Played against his dad,
He's at number 9. So could you trade back if you're Dallas and maybe get a Micah and/or a Patrick Surtain just to revitalize the defense as a corner and an edge rusher?
Right.
Maybe, if you finessed it right, because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have high value if you happen to fall into the first overall pick.
Yes.
But the problem here is that the risk is enormous longer term, and Jerry's always talking about his mortality. I don't have that many years left, but the point is, are you willing, on what your track record is so far with Dak, again, 6-11 in his last 17 starts, would you be willing to sit tight, Dak's my quarterback, and pass on Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, and for that matter, Trey Lance and Zach Wilson? Would you sit still, trade completely out of the top 4 maybe, and if you had 1 and go back to 5 or whatever, and whatever you could pick up, would you do that and risk the near futures of all 4 of those quarterbacks coming back to haunt you? Would you do that?
Well, I think the thing is, Skip, because Dak is young, if Dak, let's say, just say for the sake of argument, Dak within year 9, year 10, I think you'd probably be more hesitant to do it because you're like, okay, year 9 or 10, let's just say he has 5 years, as opposed to 10, 12 years. Because that was the argument with Peyton, Skip, remember? Okay, I could have Peyton for 3, 4, 5 more years, or I could have Andrew Luck for 15 years. Well, and plus, Peyton was coming off that injury, and the Colts doctor says, nah, let's not do this. Some of the other doctors says, okay, there's a chance, 10, although small, that he can come back and play well. But when they looked at it, Jim Irsay says, hold on, maybe 5 years tops, maybe, or 15 years. Well, Skip, it was a no-brainer. But when you look at this, Skip, over the last 22 games, the Jets and the Cowboys have the exact same record. Now, who has more talent? The Cowboys...
No, that's a very good point. That's touche. You got me.
I mean, Skip, I get it. Quarterback makes a big difference. But from the way this team, as Jerry Jones and everybody keeps telling us this is the most talented football team, there's no way over the last 22 games they should have the exact same record as the Jets. Something is not computing, Skip. Something's not adding up.
Which is why he did not give Dak his money. So my gut feeling, bottom line is, if Jerry didn't commit to him, think of what you could do. Let's just do the hypothetical. If you did take Trevor Lawrence, do you know how much you'd have to pay him if we go by what Joe Burrow got? Joe Burrow got 4 years, $36 million. That's it, period, end of story. So that's like $9 million a year. That's it. It's mostly guaranteed.
It's guaranteed, yeah.
Okay.
But you prorated that over 4 years. You pick up his option, that's 5 years. So basically, that's like $9 million a year, as opposed to having to pay Dak, if you franchise him, $38 million.
$38 million. Well, if I know Jerry, he's into dollars and cents.
Yeah.
He would say, blondish hair, and I can have. I don't think, because the cap's going to plummet, I don't think that he'll get much more than Joe Burrow got to sign.
No.
Okay, so I could have Trevor Lawrence for 4 years for what it's going to cost me to have Dak Prescott for 1 year.
Right.
I believe he would jump at Trevor Lawrence. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it's hard to turn that down, Skip, because they say this guy is a generational quarterback.
Yep.
And when those guys, I mean, you're not trading up to get Andrew Luck. Nobody was trading up to get John Elway. You weren't trading up to get Peyton Manning or Troy Aikman. That wasn't going to happen. So if this guy is what everybody believes in, from most indication, he's real deal. Nobody is going to. If you get an opportunity to get him, Skip, nobody's going to trade you for it. Nobody is going to be in that spot. Is going to trade back and says, okay, give me 3 first-rounders and I'll think about it. Nobody's doing that, Skip. So if you land on that #1 spot, you're probably going to take that kid.
I would, unfortunately, agree.
Now, if you get an opportunity to get that Sewell kid, maybe you do it like the Ravens did Jonathan Ogden. They put him at left guard for a year and then bumped him out to tackle. So you're going to have to see, because, Skip, Tyron Smith, year after year, these injuries are starting to come with greater regularity, and they're starting to keep him out for longer and longer periods of time.
I got it. And the last quick point is the Parsons kid, number 11 at Penn State, and the Sewell kid at Oregon. They both just opted out this year, so it's hard to even draw a bead on them because you don't even know how they played this year.
Right.
So you're betting on what they did.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
The
time
last
off.
thing we saw, Skip, they look good. Okay, that's good enough for me.
You can't miss out on the possibility of what Trevor Lawrence may become.
Right.
Because there's a lot of potential there. How about this, though? Could one trade make the Suns the biggest threat to the Lakers? Yes, Shannon, listen up. We'll explain next.